Good morning, welcome to this weekly market update from MRC Markets. Today is the 5th of March 2014. What we'll do today is go through some technical analysis on Euro dollar, cable, dollar Swiss and Aussie. Just going to review what's been going on the charts and just give some sort of outlook for this week. We'll have a look at the, we'll briefly look at the weekly and mainly focus on the daily 4 hour and 1 hour time frames. For anyone who follows that, we have 3 moving averages in each of these charts. The red one is a 50 simple moving average, the purple is a 100 and the gold is a 200. We'll not make any trade calls recommendations in this video. You trade at your own risk. If you could please read our full disclaimer on our website, which is www.mrcmarkets.com. Okay, then let's have a look at the weekly chart briefly. So yeah, we've spoken about this setup numerous times now. This is the one just that I'm personally keeping an eye on. I mean, obviously I don't really look at the weekly chart that often, so I trade sort of intraday stuff, and as this is a weekly video anyway. But it's always good to keep it in mind, just in terms of big levels, and the reason is because this big 61.8% retracement is a key level here, which is that one spot, 38.32, so that's still currently holding. Sellers are trying to, they really are hanging on here at this level, trying to bring it down. You can see last week's candle we came up, pretty much tested it. We didn't exactly reverse. I mean, this is technically a sort of bullish continuation pattern here, but expect this week to start off as a slightly bearish week, to bring it down and perhaps form a lower wick, and that is exactly what's happened. I mean, it's Wednesday today, we've already had that the last couple of days. Last couple of days have been pretty choppy, to be honest with you. I mean, last week was fairly choppy as well, and that's why you can see we've got the big upper wick and lower wick, so quite a lot of indecision out there in the market, but it is still trying to grind higher, but the sellers will definitely have something to say. So yeah, in terms of this week, in terms of just looking at a weekly candle, and as I said, expect a retracement at the start of the week, and then perhaps for it to come back up and, I don't know, maybe form a doji. I can't see it breaking the highs really. Yeah, but perhaps the data will have something to say about that. But no, that's it really in terms of the week. It's a hard one to predict in terms of what it's going to do for the rest of the week. I mean, it could easily just form, well, a sort of candle now and just close like it, similar sort of to it is now. It could always do a bearish engulfing as well. But yeah, I can't really see it closing above these highs here. I'd expect some sort of doji pattern, or it was pretty similar to candle to last week's, but just a smaller version of it. In terms of the daily, what we're really focused on the daily, I think we spoke about this in last week's video, this move here. And of course, first of all, it's always good to keep it in mind, this move here as well. Remember we had that, it's off the 50% bounce. So then, this is the fib that a lot of people will be focused on. Of course, we're a long way away from it, but it's just good to keep it in mind just in case we have a real quick sell-off. And in terms of the bigger picture, so you can view it on the weekly as well. The reason is because this 50% coincides with previous support around here as well, so it's always good to keep that in mind. In terms of the sort of bearish fibs, this one's pretty much invalid now, and it's just not a very interesting move, to be honest. This one here, it was initially interesting because you had an initial sort of there's a previous resistance around here which coincided with the 50%, but we closed above that, came back up, we came back down there, and you can see that previous resistance turned into new support. We got a little grind high, came back down, bounced off the 50, what's the 55, it should be 50, sorry. Doesn't really make much of a difference. Came back down, got some buyers up with this sort of 50 SMA, grinded high, and it's now just a bit choppy really. It's quite frustrating in terms of this sort of, well, you can see this setup is not majorly of interest now, so I'm personally going to take it off. The one that I am keeping an eye out for, if we do get any sort of retracement this week, will be this move here. It's not the greatest of moves because ideally you want the high to be above that previous swing high, but still the reason it is quite interesting because you have some previous support here and also its previous resistance as well, so it could be an interesting level to look out for, that 50%. You see it coincides these moving averages here as well. So what I think will happen is we'll come back down, get a brief bounce up perhaps, and then it perhaps retrace back down then towards this bigger move here. because it's technically sort of forming a triple top hit. If you look from this move here, it's technically forming a triple top hit. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back down. But of course, it doesn't have to. It can easily just bounce off this fib and take out highs. But I don't personally think it will. But no, just keep an eye on the action. I mean, in terms of the weekly video, I mean, if you're looking at the 4 hour, just keep an eye on the action. You could get a nice little 4 hour reversal down here. Coincided with this 200 SMA, we get a nice little pop up and get sort of 50 pips or whatever. And the other sort of move which a lot of people will be looking out for, in less terms, if we're just sort of scaling down towards the shorter term charts. This is one that's technically been in play. I don't really like it, to be honest with you. I mean, I would have liked it if it had sort of reversed right here off the 50%, because that's a more pure move. Then you got a nice solid uptrend, retrace, and then bounce. But it didn't really do that. It didn't really get any sort of bounce off the 50 SMA, off the 50%. To be honest with you, closed below. Very strange action. And then it got a brief bounce up, and then it sold off at 50 SMA. What was quite interesting, which I was looking at yesterday and the last couple of days really, which has been in focus, is this short-term move here. So from that fib, because as I think it's sort of looking to come back down towards the bigger fib level that we spoke about. I personally prefer, and as I said in terms of the weekly candle, the first couple of days I thought it will we'd get retracement towards the downside. This was definitely a fib I was interested in, and also you've got these multiple spikes at the 50% here, nice reversal candle there. We've sold off a bit these last couple of days, so that's quite an interesting move. I'd expect those lows to get taken out, but of course it doesn't have to. It could easily just get a nice reversal off the 0% and just keep on chopping in between the zone really. In terms of the round numbers, I always like to keep an eye on them. You've got 137s, keep an eye out for, then 137.50s, and then 138s, the sort of the low, mid and high range to keep an eye out for over this sort of week. But of course we really could break fast there and then come back down to test this sort of 36.50s, which I think is the previous support. Yeah, 36.50s is where we've got that bounce up off of there. So yeah, but in terms of how I'd be keeping my chart up, I'd have those round numbers, and I'd keep that fib on there as well. You can also see that 36.50 coincides that 50% there, so I think it could be a really interesting level to keep an eye out for. I think it will come back down towards here over the next couple of days. I mean, it doesn't have to, of course. I mean, it could get a bounce off of this 137s, for example, but I'd expect it to come down to this 50%, and then yeah, just keep an eye out on the action. Cable, in terms of the weekly, it's kind of getting stuck at these sort of highs around here. You can see those 2009 highs. Key level there is pretty much the 167.50s. Haven't had a weekly close above there in the last few years really. So that really is the key line in the sand there, and it is slightly getting stuck up here at the minute. So in terms of this weekly, we've spoken about it before. Of course, we're a long way away, but in terms of if you're a long-term player, that's the fib that I'll be using on this weekly chart. That's the key one in focus, and this really is key because these moving averages around here as well, and it's just a pure move really. So when I say pure move, I mean clear uptrend and then retracement down, and then hopefully it should then move up. They're the pure moves. Because of course you have to remember these fib retracement, it is a retracement tool, a retracement of a trend. So you want to look for clear uptrends and then clear retracements. They tend to be the better moves. Yes, that's the. I mean, well, in terms of last week's weekly candle, nothing major. I mean, the last couple of weeks have just been slightly choppy candles, so nothing major of interest in this weekly apart from that. In terms of the daily, in fact, let's just flip it to the 4 hour. So there's nothing that's majorly interesting on the daily. Well, it's the same thing I'll be looking at on the 4 hour. So it's this small fib here. As we're doing these weekly videos, you don't want to be looking at the huge setups really. I mean, it's nice to keep them in mind, but in terms of shorter term moves, this is interesting on the 4 hour. It's the same move on the daily. I'd expect it to come back down towards this 50%, because it looks like it's formed some sort of double top here, and it's making lower highs as well. But of course it doesn't have to come back down, and this is the key support which has been holding off the sort of 166s key line in the sand here. And in fact the round numbers have been really good on cables. You've got the 166s there, you've got the 167.50s up there. 166.50s you can see is acting as key support as we speak, and then 167s as well is also key. So you can see it's just been coming down and just testing these levels, bouncing. So you can see we came back down here, bounced up a bit, came back down to 166s, reversed, came up to the 167s, came back down. So it's just chopping around these sort of key round numbers really. And in terms of the shorter term outlook in the week, that's the way you really got to be playing it, to be honest with you, because it is very choppy at the minute. It's just sort of flagging and just chopping in between these sort of ranges. So I wouldn't look. I mean, in terms of fib setups, that's the one fib setup I'll definitely be keeping out for. I'm not really interested in the sort of selling one. In terms of the bearish setups, they're not that pure, and it's just a bit choppy at the minute. I'd rather just play the range. Although you can see the 50% of this move has been a fairly interesting sort of selling level. But the reason is because it lines up bang up with the 167, so you don't really need it on there, because you just have to remember that 167 is the 50% retracement of that move from that sort of that Feb high to that swing below there. And yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of cable really. So yeah, it's just still chopping, still looking for a breakout really. I mean, if it sort of breaks below here, if we get some solid candle closes, and keeping out on that fib there. And yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of cable, to be honest. Dollar Swiss on the weekly. What we've been speaking about for ages was first of all, it was this level here, so the 88. What was the 89? I can't remember now. 88.50s was a key support level. Multiple spikes around there. I mean, you can say 88.50s or it was 89s as well. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was 89s actually. But either way, you can see, yeah. So it was, first of all, it was the 89s. 89s was a key support here. Multiple spikes below. Closes above, but it couldn't quite get up there. It's just a weak bounce up. Then we've got these weekly candle close. This weekly candle close below there, and then another sort of bearish candle. But you can see it acted. So previous support turned into new resistance here. You can see from the spike up, and exactly what it's doing at the minute. The level it's coming off of at the minute is 0.8750s. This is why the round numbers are so good, because they do act as really good support. Well, it's not quite 8750s, but pretty as much. So we've come up off here, and you can see, I would not be surprised if we flip it towards the daily chart now. I would not be surprised to see it come up, test the 89s, and then potentially reverse. So of course it doesn't have to reverse, but just keep an eye on the action there. It's definitely a really key level to keep an eye out for. Is these 0.89s, and to be honest with you, I'd keep the other round numbers up there well in terms of just 50 pip increments. So you got 88.50s, and then keep an eye on the 8800s as well. You can see the 0.88 was a lovely support there, pretty much to the pip. We've got a really nice reversal towards the upside there. So key levels to keep an eye out for on the dollar Swiss, and that's pretty much the weekly and daily done. And if you're a sort of aggressive, well, let's flip it to the 4 hour and the 1 hour. If you think it's going to really sort of continue to grind higher, so we've had a really nice uptrend on here. But if it does start to retrace, I'd personally be keeping out for this fib retracement here. So let's say if it is currently topping out here, of course it doesn't have to. I'll be keeping out on this 50% level, which comes in at 0.8822s, and it's also previous support as well. But this, in terms of the low of the fib, I'll definitely keep that same low, and let's say if it keeps on grinding higher, I'll just move the high up. It's a pretty pure move in terms of pure uptrend. So if it does get a nice smooth smooth retracement towards the downside, I think that could be a really interesting fib level. And yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest with you, in terms of dollar Swiss. So yeah, you can see it on the 30-minute chart as well. That same move, nice and clear, that nice previous support. I do like the fibs that have previous support at the 50%. They do tend to act better, and you just got an extra sort of thing in your favour there for it to keep on going in your favour. Okay then, Aussie. Let's have a look at the Aussie weekly chart. I mean, in terms of the weekly, one thing I'm really focused on is this move here. I'm surprised we've had these last couple of candles that have actually been quite bearish. I mean, I suppose they are just slight retracement candles, but I still think that we should come up towards this 50% retracement here at 0.9205. So I suppose Euro and Cable have been holding it a bit as well. They've been coming down, so Aussie's been doing a similar thing. But you have to remember, we have come down a long way, especially in 2013. We've come down a long way. And the price does tend to want to come back towards its moving averages, so keeping up this 50, was a 50, 55 doesn't really make a difference. But I still think we'll come to and test that sometime this year, or over the next few months perhaps. That's the fib I'll personally be keeping out for, and it's the same thing on the daily as well. I'd rather favour the upside towards the downside in terms of getting in on Aussie. So I think it's just got a lot more room to go. But you can see we're currently getting capped here at the 100-day moving average here in Aussie, and currently getting some support of the 50-day moving average as well. So it's just currently chopping in between those levels, those indicators. And also got this trendline resistance as well, which has been acting really nicely. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a break of this and see it come up and test towards this 50%, or at least this 200 SMA. In terms of the shorter term moves, so let's zoom out a bit. In terms of shorter term moves, because yeah, it's just forming a flag. It's a pretty textbook bull flag here. In terms of, let's say if it keeps on flagging, this is one fib I'd definitely be keeping an eye out for. We've spoken about this in the last few weeks' videos, I think. This 50%, it comes in at 0.8868. The reason it is interesting is because it coincides with previous resistance here. So previous resistance hopefully will turn into new support. And also 61.8 coincides with previous resistance as well. So don't be surprised if it comes back down towards this 61.8 and then reverses. But yeah, it's currently all about the trend line really. It needs to hold for it to keep on grinding lower towards these key fibs, and then we could get a real bounce up, nice reversal and bounce up. But that's how I've personally got my chart set up on the Aussie. I mean, in terms of lifts, if you want to flip it to the 1 hour, if you want to look at shorter term moves or just sort of selling off these dips of the trend line, then you've got a nice bit of confluence in terms of the trend line resistance and some fibs. This is one cracking example here. We had a pretty much spike off this trend line, came back down, nice sort of closes below the 61.8, and you can see currently it's testing the 50% retracement and 100-hour SMA, so the sellers will be looking for some sort of reversal off of that, and I would not be surprised to see it reverse, because you can see the previous 4-hour candle closed below the 50%, so I think this candle should close below 50% as well. So that's an interesting move, which I'll definitely be keeping an eye on for the rest of the day in terms of this 1 hour candle as well. And okay, then that's all for today. If there's any other pairs that you want to have a look at next week, then feel free to comment under the YouTube video or send us a tweet to our Twitter feed, which is at MRC_markets. Hope you found that video useful. Hope you have a great rest of the week trading, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching.